couple people asked me about, the vaccines. And so today's blog was about the vaccine. And I had a very prominent gentleman from the New Access health insurance company that we're working to become involved with asked me the same question. And the answer is, I don't really care about the vaccines. I'm not going to study them. I'm not going to become an expert on the vaccine. But I think, Dr. Carter, we should really talk about the vaccines and talk about vaccines in general, because vaccines do not go through the rigor of testing,
right?
Long-term side effects and things like that a traditional pharmaceutical does.
Yeah.
And the second thing is they're always disingenuous with their absolute versus relative statistics. And I published a blog on that a while ago, and I'll probably recreate it.
Well, I mean, ultimately, there were already 6 or more variants of the virus, probably more, and this is going to mutate. And there are already, scenarios where, people have tested positive for HIV with exposure to this virus, but because it has aspects of HIV protein particles in it, that's not surprising that that's occurring. So, but yeah, I mean, there'll be other variants coming from this. I mean, just like the flu, that's why the flu vaccine doesn't work so well, because the influenza virus always mutates. So, so this is going to happen with this as well. And of course, they're going to be piling on more and more, variants of the vaccine to try to chase this thing. But really, at the end of the day, there was a great talk by Dr. Bacci, who's a virologist. He's on he was interviewed by Del Victory from the High Wire. I highly suggest that you guys watch his episode from last Thursday. He interviewed 3 doctors, absolutely riveting in terms of what they went over about, kind of what's going on. But really what was most riveting, just like we've said before, that exposure to this virus is more an innate immune response in your body. So it's your T killer cells, that, and the macrophages and so forth that are, stopping this virus, among other things. Obviously, it's not so much the cell mediated or antibody, portion of your immune system, which is why the antibodies don't really last. It's not really creating memory B cells, like if you had measles or mumps or what have you, right? So this is not occurring with this virus, just like with the influenza virus. Again, that's why you need to be exposed to this vaccine every year, purportedly. And it still, at best, has maybe a 45% efficacy rate, but that's still questionable. But be that as it may, that's what's reported by the CDC. So does that answer your question?
It does to a degree, but can you comment in the fact that it's been picked up in England and in South Africa, but it doesn't seem to be noted in the United States?
Well, there are various strains everywhere. So, and it's going to mutate. So there's really no controlling that. So
let me ask you this question then. Does that mean that we probably are not getting the right information in the United States? Why that is not occurring here and it's occurring every place else?
That's interesting.
You probably can't answer that question, but it is a little peculiar that it is occurring overseas, but it hasn't happened here.
Right. Well, and I also have different views on this whole outbreak, in general. One of the other things, though, that really is prevalent that people need to understand is that these the RT-PCR tests are absolutely flawed in how they are doing the magnification of the cycle number. So, and it is well known that one should not go above, well, let's say really that one should not go above 17 to 25 cycles. But there are many locations that are doing 30 cycles, 35 cycles, 45 cycles. So when you go above the CT, the cycle threshold value, the false positivity rate increases markedly. So again, not to say that this doesn't exist, but there are a whole lot more false positives out there by a major magnitude. So especially for someone who has absolutely no symptoms, right? So that's one thing that has been, bantered around quite a bit, and hopefully that will stick, and there will be a standard, cycle threshold for all of these tests, which there is not a standard, that has been placed out there. So that's unfortunate in and of itself. And I'm also curious, if you've had the flu vaccine, is there also cross-reactivity with this test as well, and you're picking up that, coronavirus? So there are a whole lot of concerns that I have with the testing of this and how the vaccines have been rushed, because there are a whole host of, just like, last week when I was talking about all of the different natural things that can be used to address this. And, and from a medicinal standpoint, ivermectin. So, we had Dr. Curry on. He was part of the frontline critical care doctors. That website is fabulous. They've done all these papers, between them, they've written over 2,000 papers, not just on this, obviously, but, they've accumulated all of this information on the use of ivermectin in thousands of patients and its use. And Dr. Curry, testified before the NIH and the Congress and said that ivermectin needs to be used. And after he did that, he was fired from his job. So very disturbing what's happening out there. Very, very disturbing.
Well, it's lucky we don't have politics in play.
Yeah. Yeah. Just crazy.
One quick question though on the new strain. Is it really more contagious, would you think, or a lot more contagious, like Boris reported in England?
Well, I mean, there's the contagious and lethality. So there's two different parts of this. I mean, it's obviously, quote unquote, a very contagious virus because purportedly everyone is getting it, right? With
do you think the new strain is even more contagious than what has been going on?
Maybe. But again, at the end of the day, everyone is going to get exposed to this.
Right.
So whether it has a higher contagion really doesn't matter. It still goes back to, being able to, boost your own immune system. Now, what people need to be concerned about, is it more lethal, right? So is it causing more death? Is it, causing more morbidity? Then that would be a bit more of a concern. I mean, when this first came out, there was basically two strains that were identified, an L strain and an S strain, really more, the S strain kind of like the safer strain, and the L strain more lethal. So, the people who got the L strain had a higher propensity of dying. And if you got the S strain, you had little or no symptoms. So, but since then, since March, there are many other strains that have been identified.
I have family over there. My mother-in-law, I don't think she'll ever leave the house again. She's that terrified, no matter what I tell her. I've shared the videos. I shared the testimony in Congress. I've shared Dr. Brody with her, everything.
Yeah.
As soon as Boris got on television, she was just riveted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, just hopefully she's at least taking the supplements and stuff like that. And, But yeah, I mean, they have succeeded in scaring the hell out of everybody, unfortunately.